Hello, welcome to the Focused and Fulfilled podcast. I'm your host, Althea Walters, and this is the show where we dive into real stories, powerful strategies, and life-changing insight from leaders, achievers, and productivity pros. And today's episode, I have a special guest. He is Robert Heath, and he will be talking to us today about thriving in chaos. And Robert is a attorney, he's a coach, he's a Marine Corps officer, and he works with leaders. And that's his zone of genius today. And we're here to talk about thriving in chaos. So if it is that you're feeling overwhelmed, you want to take back time and take back control of your energy, well, this is the place to be because Robert is here to give us all those special tips and practical strategies. So, welcome, Robert. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. So, Robert, yes, by the way, I'm so excited to talk about this topic of thriving in chaos, right? And I know so
Mhm.
many persons are struggling with that and they also
Mhm.
want the help. But before we dive into that, I want you to delve in. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to the point of specializing in one such area such as this.
No, thank you. It makes I think the story will make a little bit of sense because I too was one of those people who was just surviving. Like you do the thing where you wake up, survive, go to bed, repeat, right? So I was living that life, and it for me, it was a life that was really on the outside. I looked successful to everybody else. On the outside, it's kind of like a duck, right?
Hmm.
Above the water, it looks like it's just chilling, but under the water, the feet are just pedaling and pedaling and pedaling and pedaling. And I know so many leaders experience that, but my journey was a little bit um the moment that it hit me. I was in the Marine Corps. I was a company commander. I had just finished being a defense counsel, and the hours that it took to be a defense counsel in the Marine Corps. And my wife tapped me on the shoulder and she said, "Hey, I didn't get married to be a single parent." And I looked at her for a second because I'm like, wait a minute, I come home every night. Like, I'm not deployed, I'm here. And she was like, yeah, but see, it would be different if you were in Iraq or if you were in Afghanistan. But like, your office is 2.5 miles away from our front door. We live on base, you work on base, but we don't see you. And when we do see you, like you come home and you're here, but we'll be watching a movie and I can tell you're not here. Your mind is somewhere else. And we need your presence. And that was the first moment that I had realized that like I was succeeding but failing, right? And the way that I got to that point was really trying to become a better leader, trying to become a better person. See, I had started off I'm originally from the south side of Chicago. And so I grew up and saw a lot of different things. Where I went to school were good schools, good neighborhoods, things like that. Where I went to church, where my friends hung out, where I played basketball, did things like that in the city. That was a different experience. And so I got to see two worlds. And so my journey to the Marine Corps, to leadership, and to this pivotal moment where I had to figure out how to change was really based on trying to be somebody who was making the world a better place. I went into teaching. I got my master's degree and I taught school. And I was going to make education better. I was going to go and be a superintendent eventually. And I remember I was teaching in Memphis City, Memphis, Tennessee, which at the time was the 20th largest school district in the country. And so we had a new superintendent who had come in and she was from Memphis, had graduated from schools in Memphis, and then went away, gotten her degrees, gotten her letters behind her name, had run a school system and over on the East Coast, and now was back home to do what I wanted to do, which was to fix her home schools, to take care of her neighborhoods. And I remember in that moment, I was so excited. I gave up my summer. I went to in services. I was learning. I was trying to soak it all in because this was my vision. This was my dream. I was going to watch it. I had front row seat.
Right.
And 18 months later, she was no longer the superintendent of schools. And it wasn't because of anything nefarious that she had done. It wasn't because she was embezzling money. It wasn't because she was, having illicit affairs or anything like that. And I mean, it shocked me because what I saw was she was not able to galvanize the
Mhm.
people to get behind her vision. what I saw was a failure in leadership that wasn't for lack of trying or lack of effort, but it just was that she wasn't the capable leader in order to make the movement that she was trying to make happen take
Right.
place. And immediately for me, that was kind of a, oh man, wait a minute. That's me in 20 years because I thought she was a great leader until she failed, right?
Yeah.
I didn't see the gaps in leadership. I didn't see that she was missing things. I didn't see that she wasn't capable. I thought she was awesome, which
Yeah.
told me I had some blind spots in leadership. So long story, a little bit less long. I decided to go get better at leadership. And I began taking what I call my leadership sojourn. I went to law school to really learn and understand the system of laws that govern our society and how we build systems, how we create rules. Because one of the things that I saw was a problem is that there were power players in the community that were not part of the education system, that were not on board with what she wanted to do. And I needed to know what type of impact they could have on my goals if I was going in trying to fix education. Who can thwart that? Who do I need to have on my team? So learning the law really helped me to understand how we build our society. And then I went to what I like to call the greatest training leadership training academy in the history of the world, the United States Marine Corps, and I became a Marine Corps officer. And as I was doing that work, I was learning about leadership. I'm going, like I said, I was a defense counsel and then I became a company commander. I'm moving up the chain. And this was when I learned a very pivotal thing, which is it's not enough to just be successful professionally.
Mm-hmm.
That is the road towards burnout. That is the road towards not being fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife tapping me on the shoulder was that moment where I realized like I was not as successful. I was failing. And the feeling that I had is a feeling that I know a lot of high achievers have when you understand that you're not doing as good as you thought you were, when you realize that you're dropping the ball somewhere else because all of your focus was over here.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if a lot of my clients have expressed this as well, but I'll leave it to your listeners to say whether that's the same thing for them. But I know for me, what happened was it started sucking the joy out of everything that I was doing because I felt like I couldn't
Yeah.
be successful everywhere. And now it felt like I was just going through the motions. And I had to figure out how to overcome that. And so Thriving in Chaos, the book that I've written and the program that I teach is really built out of an understanding that it is imperative that we not only be successful professionally, but that
Right.
we live a life that is not balanced, because I think work-life balance is a myth, but
Mm-hmm.
rather a life that's in harmony
Mm-hmm.
and a life that's in harmony and alignment with our purpose. And when we can do that, that's how we can then live a fulfilled life, a thriving life, regardless of what's going on outside.
Excellent. Excellent. Robert, I heard a lot. I heard a lot, but I'm so appreciative of the background, the history. I got an appreciation of the interconnectedness of the roles that you have and the experiences that you had, or even observing from a distance when you were observing that leader. And then
Mm-hmm.
how everything has now come together for you to be in this space of coaching and guiding
Mm-hmm.
leaders, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is so
Yeah.
important. But you mentioned that you were succeeding but failing at other
Mm-hmm.
things. And I think that is where some of us are, we're at a juncture, like we're saying, hey,
Yeah.
I'm striving in this area, I'm achieving, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I have it all together at home, right?
Yes.
And I could
Yes.
see through the lens of your wife when, she said, hey, you're here, but you're not here, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, people experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And the tap on that shoulder, a lot of us get that tap in, Robert, but not a lot of us yield to it because we
Mm-hmm.
think that we still need to be doing more, 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 more.
Yeah. 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 And that's the feeling. You're 100% correct. And oftentimes we kind of get resentful of the people that tap us on the shoulder, right? We get resentful of the person that alerts
Yes.
us to the fact that we're not doing good enough because in our minds we're doing the best that we can, right? And that's where, like I said, that's where the burnout comes from. That feeling of not enough, not good enough, not hard enough, not long enough, not making enough money, not spending enough time at home. A lot of times people feel they're pulled in two different directions, right? And this is why I really try to push people away from the concept of work-life balance right? Because if you think about it, work-life balance is as if there's two parts of you that can be in equal balance with each other, right? It disintegrates you. But the reality is you're one person. Wherever you go, you're that same person. It's not as if you can suddenly not be a person with a family and with home duties when you're at work. Like you can just shut off that part of your brain. That's not how it works. If you have a sick child or if you have somebody that's struggling um, emotionally at home, it's going to affect you in the workplace, especially if you're trying to separate it and kind of not pay attention to it. Instead, what we have to realize is that we want to integrate the parts of our lives
Right.
so that each part of our life, the things that I do at work, positively impact the things that I do at home. And the things that I do at home positively impact the things I do in the community. And the things that I do in the community then positively impact the things that I do at work. Because the beauty of harmony is this, right? If you ever listen to music, I don't know how, are you a music lover? I love music.
Yes, I do.
There we go, right? So when you have musical notes, they can vibrate by themselves individually, and that's nice. But when you hear harmonies, there's a different experience.
Yeah.
Harmonies have a different vibration, they have a different resonance. As a matter of fact, the vibrational frequency of notes in harmony is different and set apart from the vibrational frequency of any of the one notes. There's a certain hum that you feel as a listener that you experience because harmony is synergistic, right?
Mhm.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Right.
And that's what happens when you live your life in alignment and in harmony. What winds up happening is you get more time, you get more experience, you get more done with less energy because certain things just start to fall into place. And that's again when we move from surviving in the chaos
Yeah.
to thriving in the chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you're talking about that integration and the harmony meaning alignment, if you think about even fulfillment, fulfillment equals alignment, right? Because when you're
Yes.
aligned in the things that you do well at or the things that you want to do or your values, etc., when you actually get to that alignment, then fulfillment is automatic.
That is it. That's exactly it.
Yeah, it is. So, Robert, I wanted, you mentioned some of them, but I wanted to kind of drill it down for my listeners what chaos actually looks like. Because sometimes we don't realize that we're in chaos, or we're in
Yeah.
disarray. We don't. So, what does it
Mhm.
look like? If you had to say two or three examples, what could
Yeah.
chaos look like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing that I hear from my clients and in my personal experience, the biggest thing is when you're constantly feeling like you're not managing your time and doing what you want to do, but you're managing other people's priorities, right? Chaos looks like an inbox that's always full. It never gets empty.
Yeah.
Chaos looks like having a bunch of things that are all important that you've got to figure out which of them you're going to do because it's not as if you can just say, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. When everything that comes across your desk is important, that's where the chaos begins. You see, a lot of people, here's the funniest part. As we move along our professional trajectory, we move from this space where we have tons of time and not enough stuff to do. So we start doing more and more and more. We even take other people's stuff and we start doing other people's stuff. We become the go-to person, right?
Yes.
Everybody comes to us with stuff because we're so professional. So we're so good at getting things done. But then we get to a point where we actually hit capacity. And the thing that we start doing when we hit capacity is we start squeezing ourselves out. You start taking less care of yourself. You start sleeping less. You start working out less. You start enjoying yourself less. It's work, 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 work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the chaos of it is you don't ever know where it's going to come from. You don't know if it's going to be home, if it's going to be work, if it's going to be community, if it's going to be extended family. You don't know where it's going to come from. But because you have been the go to person, it's always coming. There's not a day that your phone doesn't ring. There's not a day that you don't get a text message. There's not a day that you don't get an email with somebody asking you to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And oftentimes, what we feel like is we have to choose between taking care of them and taking care of us. And of course, because we're great team players, what do? We become the martyr. We
Yeah.
make sure that we take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
But over time, we start realizing that the stuff that everybody else thought was an emergency wasn't really that much of an emergency. And I can't believe that I didn't do what I wanted to do. So, right. Then we become what I like to call the resentful martyr.
Yeah.
That's that person that's there and they're always giving their time, but they say, if one more person asks me do one more thing, I
Oh,
swear to God, right?
yes.
That's that resentful martyrdom, right? Because now we're the victim of everybody's need. Everybody needs us, and we can't take off the burden. We can't rest. We can't vacation. Because even on vacation, we still got to take care of everybody.
Yes.
No matter where we go, we have to be the person taking care of everybody. That's the chaos that we're talking about.
Yeah. You're touching on some corns here. But it's a real conversation. So yes. And when we can't identify that chaos, then we can't move to say clarity.
Yes.
That is going to help us to come out of that chaos,
Yes, yes.
right?
And so yes and no. Here's the reality, and hopefully this is a clarity point for everybody. The chaos isn't the problem.
Uh,
The chaos has always been and will always be.
yeah.
The issue is, are you trying to manage the chaos
Mm-hmm.
or are you allowing for the chaos to exist and making sure that you are managing yourself
Mm.
so that you are in alignment with
Yes.
your purpose and with your vision so that regardless of what's happening in the chaos actually begins to be a benefit to you, or at the very least, a non sequitur. It doesn't matter what's going on in the chaos because I am going towards my objective.
Yes.
Right. There's a theory that, when you are aligned, when you are in alignment with your purpose, when you are focused on a goal, the universe conspires to propel you towards that thing,
Yes.
right? The same chaos that could keep you away, right? It's kind of like a current in the ocean. If you know where you're going, you can use the current, whether you're going with the current or away from the current, to help you move where you need to move. The same current that kept you away, that felt like it was just buffeting you with waves and making it so that you couldn't get where you wanted to go. If you understand what you're doing, it can be your help. That same chaos that you're expertly navigating is the reason why so many people come to you and look at you and say, oh my God, it's
Right.
amazing what you can get done, right? Because they see you thriving through it where they're struggling to just keep their head above water. And
Mm-hmm.
that becomes the reason that you get an award. That becomes the reason that you get nominated for a job. That becomes the reason that you get invited to an event,
Yes.
right? But it's how do we handle the chaos? And there's a book the first book that they had us read when I was becoming a Marine Corps officer was called a book called War Fighting. And in that book, it talked about how war is chaos, right? The fog of war exists and you can't have perfect information and you don't know everything that you need to be doing. So those people that try to manage the chaos, it ends in misery for them. But it's the warfighter who learns to thrive in the chaos that is successful not only in war but in life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole concept. Is what do I need to do? How do I need to comport myself? How do I need to act? How do I need to align myself in order that this chaos is not the obstacle to me accomplishing my goal?
Yeah.
And when you can be that way, right? And there's practical ways to do it. Like I know it sounds a little bit heady right now, but there's some practical
And go
things that we
ahead.
can do to get there. And so what we do is we talk about 5 steps. And the first kind of overarching thing is, instead of managing your time as if it's this thing, you want to move to master your time, to realize that anything that's on your calendar, guess who put it there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that we ensure that whatever is on our calendar is in alignment with our purpose, is in alignment with our vision, is in alignment with the reason that we are on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
Once you can do that, right? Then there's 5 steps that we have to pay attention to maintain that system. Number one, you want to define what success is. Get very clear on what your purpose is. Now, when I work with my clients, we do that in a number of ways. First, we make sure that we define success over the long term. What is your life's purpose so that we know where we're going, so that anytime that we get off, we know how to tack back to
Right.
the North Star, if you would. The second thing that you want to do then is define success in the short term, right? And so this is all step one, and you want to make sure that you have the success defined. not only in the long term, but in the short term. Second step is to set and align your priorities. What's important to you? And what order do you want to do these things in? What order is the best order to do these things?
Hmm.
Everything doesn't have to happen right now,
Right.
right? Bill Gates said it this way. He said, most of us overestimate what we can accomplish in 1 year and dramatically underestimate what we can accomplish in 5,
Yes. True. So
right? And
true.
so everybody puts everything on their plate and they try to make sure that they can get everything done this month. Well, wait, pause for a second. What are the things that we can do very well this month and that 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 4 months from now will still be in alignment and we can knock those things out? So you want to set your priorities and align them. The third step then is to schedule your priorities. You want to make sure you put whatever it is that's important to you on your schedule. Do you want to hang out with family? There should be a time block on your calendar for
Right.
hanging out with family,
Exactly.
right? Are you going to watch a movie? Are you going to not be looking at work? What are you going to be doing? And making sure that those things are on your calendar first, not
Correct.
trying to find time for them after you've put a whole bunch of stuff on your calendar that's important to other people,
That's
but
where
it's
the
not aligned with you.
resentfulness comes into play that you were speaking to about previously. How we didn't
Exactly.
take care of those little things.
Exactly. And so when we realize that we own our time,
Hmm.
then we get to say at the beginning of the week, what's important to me? What do I need to make sure happens this week for me to have a good week? That goes on my calendar first. Now I can plop in all the other meetings and all the other things that I want to do. And you'll be amazed at how much time there actually is in the week once you have you taken care of.
Hmm.
Right. So that's step 3. Step 4 then is right. Everybody's got a plan. As Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan till they get punched in the mouth.
Right.
Right. And so we have to understand that we're going to have to deal with interruptions. We're going to have to deal with things that come up that are going to be changes to our plan. And so when we're doing that, it's important to know how to set and enforce boundaries,
Hmm.
right? Because some interruptions we're going to have to adjust to. But most interruptions, we're going to have to enforce a boundary to not let that interruption mess up my plan.
Right.
Right. And one of the things that I talk to my clients about so often is you're never going to enforce a boundary that you don't think is reasonable.
Yeah.
So it's extremely
100%.
important, right? Right. So it's extremely important that what we do is that we look at the boundaries and we give ourselves time to address the potential interruptions before they happen so that we know that we're comfortable with dealing with them.
Yes.
Because what happens, most people try to do it in the moment. And in the moment, your default is going to be helpful, to be a team player, to be a martyr.
Hmm.
Right. And if that's not in alignment, then we have to have a different plan. We have to have a different immediate action. And so then the last step is to sustain the transformation. Once you've put all these things into place, you'll be different. You'll approach time differently. And what's necessary then is to, instead of having to do each individual action over and over and over again, we want to hack the power of habit because habit allows us to do things with less and less brain energy over time. It makes
Right.
it more and more automatic. And if you can make success actions, success habits, then now your life goes on autopilot to doing the things that are going to make you
And that's
more
what we want.
successful, more alignment. And that's what we want. Exactly. So those are the 5 steps.
Oh, excellent. Those 5 steps are, I think they were clear and they were really practical. Like you could get up tomorrow and try to implement this. So that's good. And I realized that, as I think about how high performers or leaders who are striving for success, we choose to, you talk about boundaries, etc. But why do you think, before we get whatever clarity, etc., why do you think it is that these persons, we try to sacrifice things while moving towards success? Why do you think persons are like that?
Yeah. I think oftentimes we get caught in an idea that it's either this or that, right? I call it the tyranny of the or,
Hmm.
right? We live in this binary space where either you can win or I can win.
Hmm.
And what I like to say is don't succumb to the tyranny of the or. And also don't go into the world of compromise, which in my mind is a dirty word, right? Compromise is just we're going to both lose, but we're going to act like we winning and we're going to play like everything is
Yeah.
great when we both are really unhappy with the end situation. No, that's not good either. What we want instead is we want a transcendent solution. We want to find a way for both of us to win and to truly win. And the beauty of it is this: we as human beings are innovative, we are creative. And so, what we can do if we put our minds together is we can figure out a way that may not have existed before we sat down to talk to each other, but there is a
Mhm.
way for both of us to win. And
Yes.
when we can be dedicated to that, now every time we're encountering those situations where before we would feel like we have to be a martyr or we have to be the dictator, the tyrant, the person who is so selfish that they don't never take care of anybody else, they only thinking about themselves, who we never want to be, right?
Hmm.
Instead, we can be the person where everybody wants to be around us because they win whenever they're with us. Whenever they're with us, they just feel better about themselves. They get better outcomes. It just feels so much more awesome
Yeah.
whenever they're with us. But that's because we help them win, but we don't help them win at our expense. We help them win while we win too.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a good explanation to bring it back. But in the same breath, how can we make sure that like relationships, you mentioned that at the beginning, right? How can we make
Yes.
sure that we protect our relationships while we're working in intense work
Mhm.
settings, demands, etc.? How can we
Yes.
do that?
Right. So it all comes down to communication. And before even communicating, it comes down to what we talked about step four, setting and enforcing boundaries. It's important for you to be able to decide who's actually important in your life and who are you willing to change your boundaries for, right? When I was a company commander, I remember I had emails coming at me all day, all the time. There was always some fire to be put out somewhere, right? I commanded over 300 Marines and sailors. I had 16 different sections across three different bases. There was always something going on. I could have stayed busy all day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if I chose to. But I remember, excuse me, sitting down in my office and looking at who are the people when I set my day, when I set my priorities, who are the people in my life that if they have something, then I'm probably going to rearrange my life in order to deal with it. And from the professional side, my boss, who was the battalion commander, that was one person. His number two, who was our battalion XO, that was another person. Then my boss's boss, who was the base general, that was another person that if they sent me an email, if they called me, I'm probably dropping everything I'm doing and saying, "What do you need?" Right? But then I started thinking through everybody else that was in my company and everybody else that was on the base. And I was like, no, if they call me, I don't have to drop what I'm doing. I can probably tell them I'll get to that tomorrow or I'll get to that on Friday and it'll be perfectly okay. And
Hmm.
then the other person that I looked at was the most important person in my life. And my wife was able to be the proxy for both my wife and my kids because they were young enough that they weren't calling dad and saying, hey, I got a problem. They'd have to get to me through mom. Those were the four people. If those people called in a day, then I knew that I was going to have to drop what I was doing and figure it out. But you know, the reality of every day,
Hmm.
very rarely did any of those four people call me and ask me to do something in the middle of the day that I wasn't already doing, that I hadn't already planned to be working on. So I was able to eliminate most of the distractions from my day because I was able to decide who is actually important enough for me to have to rearrange my schedule. Everybody else is put into this space that's called important, but not urgent.
Hmm. Yeah.
And that allows me to deal with it in a much more calm, much more calculated, much more managed way. And it took a lot of the pressure from, right? You got intense situations, and I coach C suites, I coach CEOs and sales leaders and business professionals and entrepreneurs. And if you let people talk about it at the beginning of the day without actually doing the analysis, what you'll see is that there's fires that they're putting out every day. Most of them are the chief of the fire brigade. But when you do the analysis and you go through and you say, okay, now let's look at which of these fires have to be done right now,
Right.
then it drops, it dwindles. And that's a question we have to ask. We have to ask ourselves, is it an emergency? Because if it's not an emergency, then I can handle it according to my plan.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So we're talking about thriving in chaos, right? And we're talking about how do we get back our time or energy, all of this. But if we had to try to, there are many persons who struggle and they can't really help themselves immediately without some guidance.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what could be a few daily routines or
Mhm.
steps, practices that could
Yeah.
help us to get back some energy or sustain kind of focus in this chaotic environment?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great question. I think one thing that I would start everybody with, and it's step number one, like we talked about, it's called defining success. Before you do anything, know where you're going,
Yeah.
right? It's important for you to know where you're going because there's a thing called decision fatigue, where the more decisions we make and the more options we have to choose from, the more our brain has to work and more tired we get. And so one of the things that can cut through a lot of the noise and reduce a lot of the options that you have to sort through is knowing what success looks like before you start trying to solve the problem. Right.
Mhm.
If we started having a conversation and we were just trying to think of what's the best transportation route that we're going to take, how are we going to travel? What are we going to do? You might have somebody that says, "Oh, we could bike, we could run, we could walk, we could car, we could, rent a car, we could take the train, we could take the trolley, we could take an airplane, we could take a boat, we could take a ship, we could take a ski, a jet ski." All of these different methods pop up. And now we're like, oh, so which one? And then you start hearing all the facts about this one versus this one. And this big conversation. You can have hours of conversation about modes of transportation. And then when somebody comes in and says, oh, wait, no. We're trying to figure out what's the best mode of transportation to go from New York to London. That conversation immediately shrinks.
Right.
There's really two main modes of transportation that we're talking about. Are you taking a boat or are you taking a plane? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We just cut out 90% of the extraneous information that now we don't have to process just by starting, as Stephen Covey says, with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we going? So, one tip that I have for everybody that I would highly recommend you do is to wake up every morning to look at your day and say, what is the one thing that I'm trying to accomplish today? What is the main thing that if I do this, my day will be a success?
Right.
That will then help you to judge and prioritize everything else that is in your calendar. And it'll even let you know, excuse me, some things that you probably don't even need to be doing that day that you weren't aware of when you started the day. They got
E-
on your calendar, but you know that you need to push them to another day.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
so something I wanted to offer because I know that this is I just talked about it like it was easy. It's not as easy as it
Right.
sounds, and I know that, right? I've coached hundreds of people through this method, and one of the things that many people struggle with is defining success. So, out there, something that we wanted to do as a gift to your listeners
Go
is to
ahead.
give them a tool that we've created, and it's a defining success self reflection tool, right? It's a tool that'll help you to figure out what does success mean in your life, not just today, but what is your purpose. Who are you, right? There's an assessment that's in there, and there's some questions and some journaling questions and things like that to really give you a clear understanding of who you are. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do? So that when you're doing this inquiry every day, you can have a better understanding of what your North Star is. You can have a better understanding of what alignment looks like for you. And so that's something that we want to give free to anybody that's listening to the podcast. I know that we'll probably put it in the show notes or something like that where they can click the link
Oh,
and get
sure,
access to that.
absolutely. I'll definitely put it in the show notes. And yes, yes, yes. I think that the more tools that we have, the right tools, we can have so many tools, but the right tools that we have to help us to thrive is important. So as we're thinking about the chaos and the thriving, you spoke about the decision fatigue, and I'm happy that you said it because not many persons are aware of the level of the mental load that we carry and
Yes.
we impose upon ourselves that
Mhm.
cause us to get deeper into chaos, get deeper
Yes.
overwhelmed. And I just want you to tap into that part of the conversation about what I call self-inflicted wounds sometimes, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
As we're
Yeah.
thinking about overwhelm and chaos, what advice can you give to those persons?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Overwhelm to me, and a lot of people experience it differently. And I've been in a space where overwhelm used to be a bad word for me. It used to be a bad feeling, a bad experience. And one of the things that I've done to be able to reframe overwhelm is to really look at what is it telling me, right? What I've learned is that overwhelm, if you listen to it, is a very beneficial thing for you. Overwhelm is like pain or like a smoke detector in
Yeah.
your home. Its job is to let you know that there's a system that's currently not functioning the way that it's supposed to function. And if you listen to it like a fire alarm, you will either go find the source of the fire or at least be able to get out of the property fast enough so that you can definitely experience safety.
Yeah.
That's the key thing, right? And so when people are feeling overwhelmed, what overwhelm is telling you is that the current system that you are utilizing is insufficient for the things that you're trying to cram through it. That doesn't mean that something's wrong with you, that you're not good enough, that you're not smart enough, that you're not bright enough. It just means that your current system is at capacity and you need to develop and devise a new system to handle the increased capacity.
Mhm. Excellent. I like the analogy. I like the smoke analogy. We get it, right?
Yes.
It just means that you need to shift gears.
Yes.
Something is not working. Something needs
Hmm.
to be refreshed, reviewed, recycled, revamped. Something needs to be
Hmm.
done. And I like the fact that you put it that way because I get it immediately. Robert,
Hmm.
this has been, a great conversation. And we talk so much about first, understanding chaos and then navigating it. What are the tools, etc. And I think that you brought much introspection and much light on the topic. And really, I really want to thank you for your contribution. It was well received.
Thank
Robert,
you
how
so
can we
much.
find you, Robert? How
Yeah,
can we
so
contact
everybody can look for us. We have our website. There's a couple of websites you can look for us at. Number one, Robert Heath Sr. So that's Robert Heath, HeathSR.com. And then our other website is TLLCG. That stands for the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group. So TLLCG.com. And then you can find me on LinkedIn as well. We're doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn as far as articles and posts daily. And that's just Robert Heath Sr. and 007 because I'm a James Bond fan.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much again, Robert, for sharing such powerful insights on how to thrive in chaos. And my audience or anybody who is listening, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling like you're in a chaotic environment, just remember that it's possible that we can navigate it. We can reclaim our time and our energy, and it doesn't have to be at the cost of our well-being or our relationships. So if you enjoyed this episode, encourage you to share it with other persons and let us know. And of course, all the information and the goodies that Robert left with us will be in the show notes. So until next time, stay focused and stay fulfilled. I was your host, Althea Walters. Thank you.